More people have retired in the last year than at any other time. And many older Americans who remain in the workforce are struggling to pay their bills, hoping that the financial sector will rebound. Tonight, we're going to discuss the post-pandemic economy and its direct impact on your finances. Good evening. I'm Christina Loren. Welcome to this month's edition of Rural America Live with AARP. We also welcome our listeners joining us on Rural Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 147. This evening, we're going to put the spotlight on rural money matters, offering resources to help you manage your budget during these uncertain times. And here to answer your financial questions, we have economic journalist and author Chris Farrell from Minnesota Public Radio with us, along with AARP Vermont State Director Greg Marchildon. And you're a big part of this show. We want you to join the conversation tonight. Our question of the month is, what steps are you taking to help keep your finances in line? We're giving away a Yeti cooler tonight to 5 lucky on-air callers. If you are caller number 1, number 4, number 7, or 9, even number 11, you will be a winner tonight. As a friendly reminder, you don't need to be a member of AARP or over the age of 50 to win, but you can only win one time each calendar year. Join the conversation. Give us a call at 877-283-7570. I'm going to give you a moment to grab a pen so you can write this number down, 877-283-7570. And if you are a winner tonight, AARP will call you back in the next few days to confirm your mailing address. Make sure to return their call, and you will get your Yeti cooler, but please exercise some patience. The pandemic has slowed down the shipping of coolers. And joining us now from Burlington, Vermont, AARP State Director Greg Marchildon, from St. Paul, Minnesota, senior economic journalist, Chris Farrell joins us tonight. And you know what? It's so great to have your insight, your perspective on the show with us. Greg, what are some of the financial concerns that have resulted from the pandemic that your members are talking about right now?
Well, look, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty right now. I think Chris will go into a lot more detail tonight, but we're seeing a lot of uncertainty. We're seeing sort of record numbers of retirement, but a lot of these people don't necessarily want to be retiring. So the labor market is, there are jobs available, but people have left them, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of people spending an awful lot of time at home over the last 18 to 20 months, and people are, looking at different options. Many have caregiving, childcare issues. They're taking care of an elderly parent or a grandparent. So it's a very uncertain, sort of murky time for people and their finances. And that doesn't look to be changing certainly dramatically anytime soon. So we got to arm people with some information so they can help make some very good decisions.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern right now about the economy going forward and not a lot of confidence, which is why your insight tonight, both of you, and Chris, you keep an eye on how the economy is doing on a daily basis, but we're so glad to have you both with us to help us out. We know that many people have left the job market. They're retiring earlier than maybe they wanted to. Record numbers of workers are part of what's being dubbed the Great Resignation. Chris, how do you see this play out, and what trends are you really watching? What's popping out at you right now?
So, Greg really hit it right. It's a time of incredible uncertainty. The economy is growing. It's not growing as fast as we forecast or hoped or thought that it might back in June and July when, the vaccinations were just out there, things were opening up. But the Delta variant did slow things down. The supply chain problems were deeper than expected. That slowed things down. But the economy is growing. And these cross currents, well, one of them, the Great Resignation that you mentioned. So this is people voluntarily quitting their job. And since April, almost 20 million people have said goodbye to their employer. Now, many of them have gone on to take some other kind of work. Some have been burned out, and their surveys showing that, need some mental health time, need to spend more time with family and friends. They've just been too isolated during this difficult period of time. And then with this, as you mentioned, the massive increase in retirees, you would have expected, if you look at trends over the past decade or so, about 1.5 million people to retired. Well, 3.6 million people retired. And a lot of them, as Greg mentioned, It's earlier than they expected. They didn't necessarily want to retire. It was their best choice. So are they going to come back to the job market as the economy continues to grow, as employers continue to look for workers, and hopefully, knocking on wood, that the vaccines continue to spread and the virus fades away at least a little bit into the background. So it's a very troubling, very uncertain time. But despite that, I do want to say this economy is growing and employers are looking for workers, and that is a good thing for the workers.
Yeah, the new number of jobless claims finally going down, which is really beneficial and it's insightful. It's one of those key indicators that you look for when you are studying the economy for a turnaround. Greg, AARP is focused on the challenges that older workers faced. Who has been affected most during the last 16 months?
Well, Chris just provided a very good overview of that. And older workers in general have been more affected by work and finances during the pandemic than their other age cohorts. Women, frankly, have been particularly hard hit. Women over 50. When you look at the numbers for essential workers, you'll find that about 34% of them are women, to about 27% that are men, and that's a very big difference. And then you add on to that women tend to end up assuming caregiving responsibilities in their family, whether that's for children that can't go to school because of the virus, or whether they're taking care of an aging parent and they can't afford the very huge expenses of long-term care. So you can see this sort of very difficult cycle that many women have found themselves in during the pandemic. And for those that were working jobs that were in restaurants or in hospitality, those jobs faded really quickly. So this is a very, very difficult period for people like this, but older workers writ large have definitely been more impacted during the pandemic than younger workers.
Oof, it's really hard to hear that because, women so often, they are the ones who take that leap of faith and decide, I am going to bring an older relative home and I am going to be that caretaker. And so, yeah, it's a really tough time right now for everybody. And then, of course, I heard a poll today that 9 out of 10 Americans are concerned about inflation. So, Chris, how concerned should we be? And what are you really watching when it comes to the potential impact of inflation on our economy?
Okay, so so inflation is up, and it's pretty much up across the board. If you think about all the discussion that's going on about the supply chains and all the ships, you probably have seen the pictures of the ships lined out outside the port of Los Angeles and other ports around the country. Supply chain issues are real. If you order a couch, it's going to take 8-9 months. Dining room table, appliances. Go to try and get a car. A friend of mine went to buy a car, and they said, you can buy the car, but it's not going to be able to do certain things because we don't have the chips to be able to do it. So they didn't buy the car. So the inflation is real. It is going to be more stubborn than thought. I'm in the camp that believes a lot of the inflation is tied to the supply chain issue. And what higher prices are doing is it's signaling to everybody we need to solve this problem. But it's going to last longer than expected, perhaps well into 2022. The question then is, do people start anticipating that higher prices are here to stay and get something of a self-fulfilling prophecy? I'm more skeptical about that, but I do not want to minimize that risk exists. I think it is more tied to supply chains. Businesses are going to solve the supply chain problem. It's going to take longer than expected, largely because of the Delta variant and some other things. And then therefore the inflation rate will come down somewhat.
Oof. It's tough because you tie in consumer confidence and should I be spending right now? Should I be saving right now? There's so many questions and the uncertainty just of the pandemic alone. Will we see another wave? It's a tough time. So I'm sure our viewers have plenty of questions for both of you tonight, and we look forward to receiving your call. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, not only will you get an answer to your question, we have Yeti coolers to give away tonight. We want to hear from you. Join our conversation. Has the current job market played a role in your decision to retire or not? Just let us know what's happening in your world. 877-283-7570. We'll be right back with more Rural America Live with AARP right after this.
Surviving a household financial emergency takes preparation and goal setting. Here are 3 tips to help you save for a rainy day and avoid a financial disaster. To build your emergency savings, set up a separate account and give it a name, one that you connect with emotionally, such as Lifeboat. The goal is to motivate you to save and discourage you from dipping into it for non-emergencies, so that those dollars are there when you need them. It's not enough to just open a savings account. You must feed it regularly so it can grow. The best way to do that is to arrange for regular automatic deposits from your checking account or from your paycheck. Doing so makes increasing your emergency fund easier and takes little effort as well. Try to free up funds to add to your account. By looking closely at your monthly bills, you might see ways to trim costs. If so, put them towards your savings. For more ways to reach your financial goals, go to aarp.org/moneymap.
Some great advice right there for you. Welcome back to Rural America Live with AARP. I'm Christina Loren. Tonight we're focusing on rural money matters, and we'd love to hear from you. We have 5 Yeti coolers to give away. If you're caller number 1, 4, 7, 9, or 11 tonight, you will be a winner. So pick up the phones. Again, that's callers number 1, 4, 7, 9, and 11. Good luck to you. 877-283-7570 is the number to call and join our conversation. Joining us once again, Greg Marchildon, AARP State Director for Vermont, and tonight from St. Paul, Minnesota, we have economic journalist and author Chris Farrell helping us out with some tough questions. Well, we've got another one for you, Chris. The Social Security Administration, they announced the cost of living increase for 2022, and unfortunately, it is one of the largest increases in decades. What are the contributing factors that have led to that jump?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the way it's calculated. It's the higher inflation rate that we were talking about, and it's calculated on what was the inflation rate during the third quarter, and inflation was up. So, really the big factor there is higher inflation. The higher inflation rates that we're living with, everything is more expensive. And so it was good news that it was increased. It was the largest increase in a long time. If you look at the current inflation rate, which is running at 5.4%, what's the difference between 5.4%, 5.9%? I mean, they're basically running hand in hand. So it's good that it happened. It's a real protection for people who are living on a fixed income or on Social Security. It's, by the way, one of the great things about Social Security is that it is inflation adjusted every year. And this is great. But it's, in a way, one way of looking at it is people are basically staying stable relative to the rate of inflation. That's what it did.
With the holidays coming up, it's hard to plan ahead. You don't want to spend too much, especially with that cost of living going up and the uncertainty going forward. Greg, a myriad of unplanned expenses are hitting those who are out of work recently or even retired right now. But you actually have a resource that can help them tackle some of those events and help us save. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, Christina, sometimes folks just need a little help, and frankly, not a lot. There are times where folks confront unexpected financial events, and we've got a new tool called the AARP Money Map. And it's a tool that's designed to help tackle unplanned expenses, create a debt payback strategy, map out your financial goals, set a budget, and more. And for many people, these simple tools can really help put you on a path forward. And it's particularly important during a time of such uncertainty. It is really an excellent time to be putting a little bit aside every month, if you can, for savings, and so that you can access those dollars if something happens, if you need to get your car fixed, you need to patch the roof. So a tool like this can really go a long way. And we'll be talking about another one later in the program too.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, having that emergency money, to have that easily accessible into your bank account, depending on what your cost of living is, it's always very helpful. It's a peace of mind. It's comfort when you do have that savings. So that's great. And you know what? That's a great idea tonight. Give us your tip. How are you saving money right now? 877-283-7570 is the number to call. Before we go to the phones, Chris, what would you like to hear from our viewers tonight? What are you looking for in these calls?
Oh, there's all kinds of things that I would like to hear. I mean, you know, Americans are actually really smart shoppers. We don't have much. We know where every penny is going. And so, how are people finding deals? Are they deciding, I'm going to keep this car going for another year or two rather than buy a new car or go into the market and buy a used car? I mean, what sort of tips or that people have about how they're navigating this period of time, and whether people find themselves, we went through this social isolation, and it's incredibly important, and now more of us are able to be out and about. Are you finding that maybe you're saving money by focusing on the experience, being around your friends and family, cooking a meal, potluck, and going and having a picnic outside, or rather than going to doing something that you might have done before that would have cost you more money? So I'm kind of curious if people have found themselves sort of rethinking where they're spending their money as we're coming out of this terrible pandemic.
Absolutely. I love to hear from others. We always get some great advice from our viewers as well. And let's go to the phones now. Scott from Colorado joins the conversation. He is our first winner tonight. Congratulations, Scott. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Just recently refinanced a house and paid off all the credit cards and got rid of that high interest debt. So that helped a bunch. And it kind of frees you up on other things. So that was a big help.
That's really, I mean, that's smart, and you can really lower your expenses. The one thing I would just like to add, Scott, and just to throw that out there, it sounds like you're now in a good position, so you don't want to get back into credit card debt. You've refinanced, you've gotten rid of your credit card debt. So, if you go to what Greg was showing with the money map, and using tools like that just to see where your money's going, set yourself up a budget, set yourself some goals like not going back into credit card debt. And how do you do that? Tools like that can really help you just sort of maintain the better financial position that you're in right now.
Yeah, great comment. We really appreciate that tonight. Thank you for that, Scott. And some people might be wondering, is it better if I refinance now? What's going to happen with interest rates going forward? And again, like you talked about, there's so many variables that we just don't know what will happen right now. So we appreciate you sharing what you did. Appreciate that, Scott, and congratulations again. Kevin from Oregon is next. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Go right ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I've had to limit my donations and stuff to kind of offset the extra expense of everything that's costing so much more. I limit what I buy in stores now, and it's a shame I can't save everybody anymore, so I have had to cut my donations about in half, and my family seems to need more help nowadays too. So I've really got to watch out and be real careful what goes out anymore, and it really breaks my heart. I got a Christmas magazine to help, around the world, and you buy gifts for people and things. And I thought, how can I do that? I love it. And then it dawned on me, well, go see what you have in your coins. What have you got in your coin jug? And I'll be darned, I came up with over $100 that I'm going to be able to give to help, a certain group to get some boxes out to kids and stuff. But I really had to limit my donations.
I'll just say one of the things that I think Chris raised, just real quickly, that Chris raised is not only is he bringing down his donations, but one of the things he said is, I'm noticing that members of my family need a little extra help.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing that in lots of places across this country right now. I'm a parent of a recent college graduate. and he's beginning to make his way, but he's needed some help. And I don't think I'm any different than tens of thousands of families across the country, knowing that they've got to back off a little bit because there are folks that are really close to them that may need a little extra help getting through this.
And can I just add, just very, very, very quickly onto that? Because Kevin, what a good soul. There's a rhythm, there's a time for everything. Right now, as Greg was saying, as you mentioned, your family, the ones that are close to you, they need you more. But we'll get through this period of time. You might have a little more in a year or so. So maintain a lower level of donations, and then as your financial circumstances improve or your family is under less pressure, you can start increasing the amount of money that you're giving away. But as long as you have that little bit of baseline, then you can just always add to it later on. But it's great that your family can turn to you and trust you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing that you're doing with that $100 you found as well. Thank you so much for that phone call tonight. I want to give out that number. It's 877-283-7570. Michael from Alabama joins the conversation. Go right ahead, Michael.
Hey, yes, ma'am. Thank you for the roundtable tonight and the useful information. We are a small farm in rural Alabama, and we're struggling right now as other farmers are also with our input costs and the rising cost of fertilizers that they say is coming in the next year. I'm getting close to retirement. I'm not quite ready, but in the event that happens to us and we liquidate or decide to, disperse the cow herd, is there something that I should prepare myself for financially? As what do I do? Is there things that I can do to prepare for that now, knowing that it may be coming? What is a tip that you could give me, in the event that does happen?
Well, planning ahead is absolutely critical. And you have sort of the time to run different scenarios and decide what are some of the choices that you are going to want to be making in terms of, are you going to stay where you are if you end up selling? Are you going to move elsewhere? How much money are you going to get if you sell the farm? How much you'll get for the cattle? And what are some of the tax implications of selling your business and how much you'll take out of it? So I think you're at a period of time where you do want to be talking to people who have some expertise who know the farm community and know you're part of the farm community where you are in Alabama, because you have a sense of what prices are going to be and what you're going to be able to get for your cattle. And then you can start thinking about, okay, if I am retiring, do I want to move somewhere else? Do I want to stay engaged in the farming community, perhaps in a different way? Do I want to be earning a part-time income? And what might that be? So I think, one of the biggest decisions we ever make is what you're sort of facing, whether retirement means that you sell the farm and stop working, or retirement means that you sell the farm and you work part-time, how that plays out. I think you really want to take some time, be thoughtful, and understand what kind of sums are we talking about, what are the tax implications of the sums, and then really, what are you going to do next? What is the vision of where you're going to be living, what you're going to be doing? Because as a farmer, and I know this, I'm not a farmer, but I know many farmers, it's a full-time job. It is actually the true 24/7 kind of job. So if you're going to be moving away from that, it's really important to think about what is going to give me meaning, what is going to give me purpose in the next stage of life.
Really appreciate that call. And of course, our prayers are with you. A lot of people right now have questions like that. What is the best path forward for me financially? We want to hear from you tonight. Share your story with us, 877-283-7570. A lot of farmers are wondering, do I make a big capital investment right now? Do I buy a new tractor? Do I buy a new combine? A lot of people have questions tonight, and that's what we are here for. 877-283-7570. We're going to go to Ohio this time for our next winner. Lou joins the conversation. Thanks for joining us, Lou. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening to me. Over the years, I have developed a CD ladder, and the CDs are beginning to mature now. I'm retired. I'm about 90, so I'm risk averse if I don't want to reinvest in the stock market, or I don't want to buy other CDs that are 5 to 10 years out, because I probably will only live 5 or 6 more years. So I really have two questions. One of them is, do you have an idea of interest rates or other investments that I might seriously consider because of my age? And I do have a reasonable amount of money coming through on the CDs. And the second, somewhat related, is that my own strategy right now is to go into money market funds, and maybe the CD rates will go up here in the next 2 or 3 years. So I'm wondering what your advice is.
So, my advice is you've been investing in CDs, and there's no real risk with CDs. I mean, the only risk that you're facing with the CD is that you locked in a lower interest rate than if interest rates go higher. I mean, that's your real risk there. So, I would stick into the safe parts of the market. And I think your strategy is pretty smart. With your certificates of deposit, if you stay shorter term with them, rather than the really long-term ones, yes, you'll be getting a lower rate of interest. But if interest rates go up, you can always reinvest it at higher, and putting money into the money market fund. I mean, I think at your stage of life, what's really important is that the money is there, and that the money is safe. And so I always get nervous about what's called reaching for yield, reaching for a higher interest rate in a low interest rate environment, because it is a law of finance. When you're in a low interest rate environment and you're getting a higher interest rate, you're taking on more risk. And I'd be very nervous, your stage of life, taking on risk. You're comfortable with CDs. You're comfortable with money market funds. You know those, how to invest in them. You understand them. And so, I'd consider thinking about sticking to your current strategy, staying shorter term. If interest rates go up, you'll take advantage of it, but you don't have to worry about losing your money to the vicissitudes of the market or getting into something that will pay you a higher yield. But boy, it may come with some risks that you don't understand, and that would make me really nervous.
Okay. Thank you so much for that call, Lou, and congratulations again on being a winner. Next up is Frank of Louisiana. Go right ahead, Frank. Okay. We actually lost Frank. Sorry about that. Please do try to call back, sir. Genevieve is going to join the conversation. She's calling us from the Sunshine State, Florida. Go right ahead, Genevieve.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. The last person who talked about CDs, yes, I'm close to 90 myself, and I've stayed with the CDs, but I've cut my cost of living down by using the credit card, and I pay no interest because I pay it off every month. And I make sure that there's short trips to the market once a month, do everything in one day so that I'm not using a lot of gasoline. And I still try to save a little bit out of that little Social Security check. And I was going to invest in some gold, and I found that it was, at my age, it's taken too much of a risk.
Yeah. I have to say, I just think it's so wonderful, and it needs to be reinforced. There's nothing wrong with credit cards. It's an easy technology. It's simple. There are protections built into it, but paying it off at the end of every month, that's the way to go. And I just want to say, Genevieve, that's great. And I'm really glad that you're sticking with your strategy. Gold is a highly risky investment. It's highly volatile. There are people who really believe in it. There are people who really actually have a pretty deep understanding of that market. But I think for the typical person, gold is just gold is on the risky side of the investment spectrum.
So many advertisements for it right now. There's always a surge of gold question or commercials
Christina?
coming in. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
And also, just to reinforce something that Chris just said, but I think your viewers may need to hear again about credit cards. They aren't bad. Chris mentioned the protections. Those are the things that ARP looks at a lot on the consumer protection side. If somebody takes your credit card, they steals your credit card, they use your credit card, you are only going to be on the hook for maybe 25 or $50. You're protected from that. So credit cards are a very good way not only to use money as long as you're paying them off at the end of every month, but there's some real protections there that you don't get necessarily with a debit card, and you don't get straight up with cash either.
Yeah, every time we do a show about fraud, you always talk about the importance of using a credit card. People cannot get after everything they could if you used your debit card. You will get that recovered. And so it's a wonderful thing for you to point that out as well. But yes, the key is to pay it off every time.
Every month.
Yeah. I got to ask, Chris, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, one area where some of us have been able to recoup some of the losses of the pandemic is what's happening in our 401k. Is that going to continue? What do you foresee when it comes to the stock market going forward?
Well, you just have to take with it like a boulder of salt when anyone is making a forecast about the market, because there are so many things that are going on. The stock market has been on an incredible roll. It just absolutely has. And the stock market is now at levels so high that it's difficult to see the market continuing to gain much of, very large gains going forward. Looking at the market where we are today, it seems that corporate earnings are justifying it, because in the end, when you think about the stock market and you're trying to understand the stock market, what you really have to look at is what is happening to corporate earnings. That's, in the end, is what driving stock market. There's all kinds of emotions, and I know people get excited, and now you can trade cheaper than ever, and there is emotion and moods, but the underlying fundamental of the stock market is what's happening to corporate profits. And we've been going through a period of time where the big have been getting bigger. And that's because they have access to all kinds of technology. They've been able to stay in the business during a very, very difficult period of time. And the technology companies have done well. So corporate profits have been good. Corporate profits have been strong. Right now, looking at it, I would say they are strong. But here is the forecast that I can make. There's another bear market in our future. There is. But I have no idea when it's going to happen.
Okay, well, we'll take that. That's something. We're going to go back to the phones. Danielle from Illinois joins the conversation now. Thanks for joining us, Danielle. Go right ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me. My question is, where should, my kids that are younger, what should they invest in or put money away to for retirement that's going to be something good for them to invest in?
So if your kids are working for a company that has a 401k, a 403b, a retirement savings plan, the single most important act that they can make is make sure that they're signed up into the plan. And then they're going to be putting in money on a regular basis into that retirement savings plan, and being young to get the power of compound interest. I don't think they want to do anything fancy. You want to have, there's this, most 401k plans, 403b plans, now offer employees what's called a target date fund. And basically what the target date fund is, it says your only choice you're making is, say your children are 25, I'm making this up, and they're going to retire when they're 65. You just pick a target date fund that has that is around for the next 40, 50, 60 years. And it's a diversified portfolio. It goes into some stocks, it goes into some bonds, it goes to some cash, nothing fancy, and it gets a little more conservative as they age. That's going to give them the baseline. And the fact of the matter is, if you do that, you invest in good times, you invest in bad times, but that's how you build a portfolio. This is one of the cases where the tortoise really does win the race. It's time, compounding, diversification, and continue to participate in the markets.
All right. Thank you for that.
And again, to underscore another thing that Chris said that's important is that ARP, we believe that people should be auto-enrolled into these retirement programs that many workplaces offer, whether it's a 401k or a 403b. That is not the case. So make sure that you are enrolling yourself. You have to do that yourself through an HR department or through however that works with your place of business. But you got to enroll, because if you don't enroll, you're not putting any money aside, which is why, of course, we need auto-enrollment.
You have
Yeah.
a young one who just graduated college. I hope that you're passing all this knowledge down.
And just like Chris said, keep it super simple. And he's even just a year, 13, 14 months into an entry-level job that he likes very much. He's even seen that pay off in a short period of time, because he can track that month to month and moving forward.
Oh, what a benefit. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to go to Iowa. John joins the conversation now. Congratulations, John. You are a winner tonight. Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was talking about 2 years ago. My wife had an operation on her colon, and when they released her from the hospital, she went to the nursing home. And at the nursing home, she had a stroke, and they didn't catch it until the next morning. It was about at noon one day, and the next morning when they finally figured out something was wrong, they sent her to the hospital, and she had a stroke and everything, and she's been in the nursing home ever since then. And I'm now paying $6,500 a month to take care of her bill in the nursing home. And I'm one of these guys that I had invested in stocks, and my broker treated me real good and invested me in some good things. But paying the $6,500 each month, I just cringe, because I'm checking in now to see when I can get my wife on medication.
So I'm so sorry for the situation that your wife is in, and with the stroke. And the only piece of advice, and you may have done this already, John, but my only piece of advice is to consult with an elder care attorney. The Medicaid caregiving rules and regulations are immensely complicated. And even people who have a cursory knowledge, journalists have a cursory knowledge. We talk to real experts, we write articles, we talk about the situation, but but people who really do know the rules and the regulations can make a big difference. And so I would consult with an elder care attorney. There are some nonprofit organizations in many parts of the country that have very dedicated people that will do some consultation, at least give you some initial guidance. But this is one of those situations where I think you really do need to sort of tap into the expertise of somebody who has a deep knowledge of how the rules and regulations, and particularly how the rules and regulations in Iowa, because Iowa is different from Minnesota, which is different from Vermont, and at certain points of the caregiving infrastructure, and just get the information that you need, so you know what you're facing and what might be some other additional choices you may need to make.
The caller also brings in sort of very stark terms the cost of long-term care in America, which are exorbitant. And at $6,500 a month, that's a tremendous amount of money, but some people pay $7,000, $8,000, $13,000, $14,000 a month. Chris's advice about seeking an elder law attorney is absolutely right. But this is the kind of thing that can sneak up on somebody. Everything can be fine one day, and the next day someone's going to need some kind of acute care. And if it's not something that you've been planning for, and it's during a very difficult time like we're all experiencing right now, this is a serious issue. And long-term care costs in this country are out of control.
We love hearing from you tonight. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with you and your wife, John. We appreciate that call so much. We love having these conversations because these are real world examples of what's happening in your world right now, and we can all learn from each other's experiences. We want to hear from you tonight. 877-283-7570 is the number to call. How are you saving money right now, or how has the pandemic impacted your finances? We would love to hear from you. 877-283-7570. We'll be right back with more Rural America Live with AARP after this.
Saving for retirement can be challenging. Increasing the amount you save can be even harder. Here are 4 ways you can boost your retirement savings, adding financial security later in life. If your employer has a matching retirement savings program, make sure to sign up. It's one of the easiest ways to build your retirement nest egg. You can set up the amount you want to contribute as a direct deposit each pay period. Save part of a raise or bonus toward retirement. In most cases, you can set this up to happen automatically, making it easier to accomplish. Prioritize this savings goal over all others. If you need extra funds to pay for big ticket items, consider tapping into other resources rather than your retirement savings. Free up extra funds to add to your nest egg by trimming expenses. This might be easier said than done, but every little bit helps. To learn more ways to save for retirement, go to aceyourretirement.org.
Stay alert. Watch for all the financial scams going on in this challenging time.
Don't deal with anybody but a trusted family member or a business associate, banker, lawyer, financial advisor.
It's way too easy to get caught up in today's unreliable information and enticing offers.
Make sure you know who you're dealing with in these troubled times. This is good advice. Listen.
The Oak Ridge boys, they teamed up with AARP for good reason, and they're looking out for you. We still have 2 Yeti coolers to give away. Let's go right to the phones. Frank of Louisiana joins the conversation. Go right ahead, Frank.
Yes, thank you. I have some comments to make about retired folks. One thing that would help their income, if they could invest a substantial amount at a financial institution and buy some stocks that pay dividends. And you won't lose your money in the stocks as long as you don't cash them in. The dividends will pay monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and which I have myself because I'm a retired person, and it does help out a lot. The other thing is on the matter of automobiles, it would save the retired people a lot of money to upkeep and keep your old vehicles. Don't keep buying a new vehicle. You have to pay taxes and insurance, which are very expensive. And in the city that I live in, the later model car that you buy, the more tax you have to pay. They have a city tax on a vehicle. I don't know if the retired folks know about that. I guess every city is different. The other thing is when you do have, going back to the finances, when you do have a substantial amount of money invested into the financial institution, you will get a credit card. No charge on the credit card at all. When you get a credit card in the mail to get a credit card, they will charge you finance charge to have the credit card. But with the bank, if you have the money invested with, there's no interest at all. I have that with my financial institution. I don't pay any interest. So these are just some thoughts I had that the retired folks out there could hear that might help them. And thank you very much.
Well, some good thoughts there. What I really want to applaud is the keep that car running. And, and the thing about it, the cars are expensive, but there's also the cost of maintenance. There's insurance. So there's the gas. So keep the car running. Don't spend a lot of money on your car. because the more expensive your car, the more luxurious it is, the higher your insurance and all those other additional costs. So I love what you say there. The one thing that I will say in terms of dividend paying stocks, it's a very good strategy, but I would just emphasize, don't do any financial strategy that you don't really understand the risks and you don't understand how it works. That's very, very critical. And finally, on the credit cards, here's the thing. Before you sign up for a credit card, before you take a credit card, look at the terms. There's a lot of variation there. You want a no-fee credit card.
Appreciate that call. And you're looking out for your fellow Americans. Thank you for that, Frank from Louisiana. Next up, Tim from Oklahoma is a winner. Go right ahead, Tim.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. We're hearing a lot more every day about Bitcoin as a type of replacement of a currency system. Are you familiar with this? And if so, do you have any recommendations on this? Thank you.
Okay, so my primary recommendation on Bitcoin is to steer clear of it. Don't have anything to do with it. Let the enthusiasts, the professionals, the market is evolving. Something is going on here. But Bitcoin and the various other digital coins are extremely volatile. They soar up, they come down. There's all kinds of questions about regulations, about what can be trusted, or is this for real? Is it not for real? So I think it's fascinating, and there is an underlying economy there that is growing. But for the typical person, let somebody else figure it out and watch it.
I've never heard anybody so blunt about it. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
And if you're retired and living on a fixed income, Social Security, and maybe if you're fortunate a small pension, you've got some savings, that is not the optimum time to start testing cryptocurrency or very risky investments, because you really want to be able to count on that money moving forward, and you can't afford the volatility of that kind of market and the losses you might take.
Yeah, the manipulation like we saw with GameStop. So there's just a lot of questions out there. Okay, next up, Jim from Arkansas joins the conversation. Thanks for joining us, Jim. Go right ahead.
Thank you for doing the show and all the good information. So, I've been retired for a while. I have Medicare coverage. So I have a Medicare supplement plan, but I see all these good benefits from Medicare Advantage plans. All these football players advertising it on TV, all this free stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, well, should I switch? And what do I lose if I switch from a Medicare supplement to a Medicare Advantage plan?
Okay, so this is an immensely complicated answer, and we don't have a whole lot of time. But what I would say is that if you look at traditional Medicare with the supplement, that if you become very ill, that really covers you incredibly well. The Medicare Advantage plans save you money if you're not particularly ill. They are often less generous if you do become severely ill. So before you make a shift from traditional with supplement to an Advantage, I really do think it is important to find an independent voice, an independent evaluation, to look at your particular circumstances, the risks you face, because there are real trade-offs between these different plans. And by the way, all those savings that are talked about, if you get really sick, you may not actually save as much money as you think you might.
Appreciate that call, Jim. Thank you for joining our conversation. We have our next winner now, Carl from Texas. Congratulations, Carl. Go right ahead.
I have a question concerning expenses or overnight motel expenses when I go to the doctor. I live about 130 miles away from Houston, and some of my doctor's appointments have to be early in the morning. And I was wondering, is there any way Social Security is going to come up with something to help us with our medical expenses?
I don't think so. I'm going to defer this one to Greg because I don't know of anything that exists, and I don't know of any conversation out there that would deal with this.
So I've got two pieces of advice. The first would be, and it doesn't sound like this may be your case, but um, if you're on Medicaid, Medicaid does offer reimbursements for gas or for rides to medical appointments. And if you're not on Medicaid, the other option, and this probably is something in the greater Houston area, is there maybe a volunteer driver organizations that are down there? These are retired folks, non-retired folks that just understand that people, and particularly in a place like Texas, where you might have to go, like you said, 120, 150, a couple hundred miles to get to a doctor's appointment. These volunteer driver programs are some counties put in money. They're augmented money that way, but they can be very low cost and sometimes even free. You could learn about those probably if you called your local senior center or you call the Area Agency on Aging in Houston. They may be able to tell you if those types of programs might be available. But those are the only two options, really. And as Chris said, Social Security will play no role here other than the benefit that you receive every month.
Very realistic question, though, for people who live in rural areas, and you got to take
Huge.
those long country roads as well sometimes to get into the city. So yeah, we appreciate that call, and congratulations again to you, Carl. Okay, well, this has been a very insightful show. We've covered a lot of ground. We only have a few minutes left. Chris, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers tonight?
Yes, my final thought would be is remember that you're not alone. You're part of a community. So you may have some friends, extended family, some neighbors, colleagues, people you've known over the years. And when you're dealing with financial troubles, using resources like the Money Map, they're really helpful. But it's really important to talk to your friends. What are they doing? Learn from them. If you're trying to stick to your discipline, tell them what you're trying to do. They'll reinforce you. So I think it's so important when we're dealing with money. A lot of times it's like, well, what can I do? And I think it's really a question about what can we do? Tap into your community, tap into your friends, tap into the resources. You're not alone in this.
That's why I love AARP doing these shows every third Thursday of the month, because it opens up the dialogue. We all learn something from one another, and I just love the fact that we're able to talk so openly on a forum like this. What are your final thoughts for us tonight, Greg?
Well, just a couple quick things. Ace Your Retirement, which is another web offering that we have in addition to Money Map. We'd encourage people to check those out. I'd also say that we need a lot more people like Chris, who understand the complexities of these issues and are able to talk about them to real people in the way they understand. This stuff can be very complicated, can put you back on your feet. But if we can find some more Chris's out there that can talk to large audiences like this, all of us will be better off.
Yeah, and a big thank you to AARP for providing us with experts like Chris every single month. We come out smarter than we went into it. So I really appreciate both of you joining us tonight. Thank you at home for your wonderful calls, for sharing your stories with us. That about does it for us tonight. But I want to make sure you know about next month. Every third Thursday, AARP comes to town. And this coming third Thursday, fraud expert Amy Knopfziger will join us. She's going to cover the latest scams making the rounds as we head into the holidays. And these fraudsters, they have been working very, very hard throughout the pandemic, as you probably know. So this is one of those shows you don't want to miss. I want to make sure you have the resources at your disposal, aarp.org/AARP Live. You're going to find a wealth of resources there for you, aarp.org. Thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a beautifully blessed night. Really appreciate you, rural America.